cats and kittens, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm happy to bring you issue number 95 in the series, Batgirl. And this is the quote-unquote original Batgirl, the one that most fans of DC are familiar with, Barbara Gordon, not to be confused with the Batgirl that was already a part of this collection way back in issue number 37, the second Batgirl, Cassandra Cain. If you don't know her, look up that issue, look up that character, she's great. As I said, this is the more or less original Batgirl, the ones that fans are most familiar with, at least. The one I think everybody wanted originally instead of the Cassandra Cain figure that we got. For those of you who aren't aware, there was a Batgirl previous to Barbara who was known as Betty Kane. She was created in 1961, but she never really caught on. She didn't last for too long. They wrote her out eventually, and then a few years later in 1967, they created the Barbara Gordon Batgirl that we all know and love. She was actually created by DC Comics and the producers of the 60s television show, so her comic debut and her live-action debut happened simultaneously. Pretty cool. She later appeared as an animated character on the old Super Friends cartoon show. She later went on to appear in her most famous appearance, probably, the Batman the Animated Series, where she was voiced by actress Melissa Gilbert. Great series. You should definitely check that out. She later appeared in the new Batman Adventures. It was the same show, just a slight redesign, and was voiced by the amazingly talented voice actress Tara Strong. She later appeared in the animated The Batman cartoon show, voiced by another very talented voice actress, Danielle Jadovitz. And most recently, I think, has appeared on the Batman the Brave and the Bold cartoon show by actress Mae Whitman, who Arrested Development fans would know as Anne Veal. In addition to her animated appearances, she was also portrayed by actress Alicia Silverstone in the best left forgotten Batman and Robin film that nearly killed the franchise, and later on was realized again in real action by actress Dina Meyer, who portrayed Barbara as both Batgirl and Oracle, which is accurate to the comic books, on the short-lived Birds of Prey television series. And most recently, and then I swear I'm done, she has just become a downloadable character for the Injustice Gods Among Us DC fighting game that's currently out on all of the current generation systems. Lots of fun, great game, and she's a lot of fun in it. Last thing I want to mention really quick is that Barbara here was almost produced by Eaglemoss for this DC collection as Oracle in her wheelchair-bound form, which was current at the time of this publication, but because their Professor X figure from the Marvel superhero collection didn't fare very well, it didn't have a whole lot of sales, they decided against it and instead gave us the more familiar Barbara as Batgirl. I have issues with that, which I will mention in just a little while, but first, for those of you unaware of Batgirl, and I'm sure there aren't many of you, we will of course look at the magazine first, which will tell you everything you need to know about the world's most famous Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. A great character, favorite of mine, love the Batman characters. Does the figure live up to this character's high standards, though? We'll have to wait and see. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy issue number 95 of the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Batgirl. First up, the character section. Where we meet Barbara Babs Gordon, who was adopted by her Uncle Jim and her Aunt Barbara after her parents both tragically passed away. After her Uncle Jim and Aunt Barbara divorced, Babs found herself living with her Uncle Jim Gordon, who also happened to be the Commissioner of Police for Gotham City. She grew very close to her Uncle Jim, eventually calling him Dad, and after accidentally learning that her dad, Jim Gordon, the commissioner of the GCPD, was friends with Batman, she decided she wanted to become a vigilante crime fighter like the Dark Knight. Babs excelled academically and graduated at the age of 16, earning a full scholarship to Gotham State University. Realizing she was getting too much attention for her accomplishments, she became a wallflower in college, pursuing a master's degree in library and information systems. But the entire time, she used privileged access and information to memorize every in and out of Gotham City, while she studied martial arts and self-defense at night, becoming one of the most proficient hand-to-hand combatants in Gotham City. Without hesitation, Barbara jumped into the melee to protect her adopted father, fighting against the villain known as Killer Moth and saving Bruce Wayne from being kidnapped. She fled the scene before she could be identified, but was dubbed by the media as Batgirl. Seeing this as an opportunity, Babs armed herself with a makeshift utility belt and began to patrol Gotham City, eventually coming face to face with Batman, who tried to discourage her from her vigilante exploits. Batgirl also became very close to and partnered with fellow heroine Black Canary on more than one occasion. Barbara went on to serve the public as a U.S. congressman in Washington, D.C. for Gotham City. Even as a congresswoman, she still found time to fight against villains like the evil Catwoman. But it was after an encounter with a superpowered criminal known as Cormorant that Barbara finally hung up her cape and retired as Batgirl altogether. Unfortunately, her retirement didn't keep her safe from the villains of Gotham City when the Joker, who set off on a revenge plot against Commissioner Gordon, came knocking at their door and shot Babs point-blank range, crippling her instantly. Barbara went through months of physical therapy and eventually came to terms with the fact that she would be paralyzed from the waist down. After having a dream where she encountered the legendary Oracle of Delphi, who revealed that the two shared the same face, Barbara took on the codename of Oracle and became an information broker to the superheroing community, serving not only the Batman and his entire Bat family, but also the Justice League of America. As Oracle, Barbara joined Black Canary to form a mostly female group of heroes known as the Birds of Prey. Barbara and Dick Grayson, who is now Nightwing, also became romantically involved and were briefly engaged until the pair realized that neither one of them were ready to settle down. After the event known as the Final Crisis, Barbara helped to destroy the last remnants of Darkseid's anti-life equation as Oracle, keeping them from the hands of villains like the Calculator. Continues to serve as information broker not only to the Bat family, but also the superheroing community at large. And went on to mentor the third and latest girl to call herself Batgirl, Stephanie Brown. Next, we look at a couple of Batgirl's classic stories. First up, we have Batgirl Year One. This is one of my personal favorite stories from the DCU, where we learn all about Barbara Gordon and how she became Batgirl. It's fun, it's action-packed, it's colorful, it's beautifully illustrated, and we get to see how excited this character is to become a costume vigilante. We learn about her relationship with her adopted father, James Gordon, how he doesn't want her becoming a police officer because he fears for her safety, and how this extremely talented photographic memory, extremely athletically inclined young woman decides to become a vigilante like her personal hero, the Batman. It's a great story, and if you want to know everything there is to know about Batgirl, you should definitely check it out. We also have Oracle, the Cure. This high-tech thriller takes place after the events of Final Crisis, which almost saw the entire DCU being destroyed by Darkseid, who came into possession of the anti-life equation. Barbara Gordon, now known as the Oracle, learns that this anti-life equation has survived in fragments spread across the internet, and she races against time to beat a villain known as Calculator from discovering this equation. It's action-packed, it's very intense, and if you really want to know more about Barbara as Oracle, this story shows off her high-tech talents. Barbara's Friends and Foes section features her adoptive father, Commissioner Gordon, the villainous Joker, her friend and one-time fiancé, Dick Grayson, also known as Robin, and her protege, the third Batgirl, Stephanie Brown. Finally, the iconography section takes a closer look at Batgirl's armory. It starts by looking at her preferred mode of transport, her Bat Cycle, which has gone through many different incarnations, including a version with a sidecar when she and the boy wonder Robin would team up. Batgirl was also provided with a number of different gadgets from the boy wonder, including flashbang and smoke grenades, a grapple gun, and a number of batarangs. After learning Batman's secret identity and becoming an official member of the Bat family, Barbara was also given advanced technology, like a new cowl that allowed her to see across many different spectrums of light. She also became extremely skilled with the batarang. Here we have the original Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and I love this character. Oh my god, do I love this character. She is one of my all-time favorites. I love all the Batman characters, but especially Babs here. Batman, Robin, Dick Grayson, and Babs are the Bat family as far as I'm concerned. And the figure, for what it is just okay, unfortunately. It's an average figure. It does capture her personality nicely with the pose and the sculpt itself, especially the facial sculpt. She's got that cute little smile on her face. It's very playful, the hand on the hip. And the sculpt is really well done. She is very athletic looking, not too sexy, but attractive. Love the red hair, how it's flowing down the back of her cape. Her cowl with the short little bat ears is very nice. And the glossiness to the black of the costume is cool. She's also totally hand-painted, which I appreciate, all the way down to the boots, which also have really nice little sort of bat symbols at the peaks of the boots. But there are problems I have with this figure. I wish that they had given us Barbara Gordon as Oracle in the wheelchair. That should have been a special edition. We just did Jonah Hex a few issues ago. I feel Babs as Oracle in the wheelchair would have been a much better special edition figure to do. I like having the original Batgirl, but at the same time, there are issues with her, and I personally would have liked the third Batgirl, Stephanie, way more than this. But I will talk about what I do like and a little bit more about what I don't like in the next section in just a moment. Batgirl stands atop the classic DC logo, and the underside of the base features her name and serial number. And so you can compare, here she is next to the Dark Knight himself, her longtime friend and one-time fiancé, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, alongside the second Batgirl, Cassandra Cain, a group shot with all the other members of the Birds of Prey that have been released so far, and finally a group shot with all the members of the Batman family that Eaglemoss has released so far. Batgirl here, the Barbara Gordon version, is just okay. It's a slightly disappointing figure for me, and I absolutely love Batgirl. I love the Barbara Gordon version. I grew up with her. She is the one and only Batgirl to me, although I really do love Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown. but the figure here just isn't as nice as it could have been. First up, the good. I think the sculpt is very nice, especially the head sculpt and her hair. It's extremely well done, which you'll see here in a second. She is completely hand-painted, and there's good shadowing and shading over the figure, and the pose I think is really cute too. It's playful, which is exactly how I think of Barbara when I think of her as Batgirl. The boots, as I said, really cool. That yellow is nice. It's not too glossy, but it's not too muted. Good shadowing and shading. You can see the wrinkles in the sculpt of the boots. The heels are well done. You can see they almost have a little bit of a texture to them, so they look sort of armored. The pants, the whole bodysuit actually is a nice glossy black, but it's not too glossy. It's just glossy enough. She has the utility belt, which does have a little bit of a bat symbol for the buckle, and some pouches, although they're not as cleanly painted as I would have liked. That's one of my complaints. Her gloves are, the hands are nice. She has the yellow gloves with the sort of bat wing details on the forearms. The cape is also nicely sculpted, great folds. It looks like it's blowing around a little bit. I like how her left hand is sort of pulling it around, and you can see the ridges for the wings sort of the cape. And her right hand also is that nice yellow gloved hand with the sort of wing detail on the forearm. And the fingers are sculpted, although they do get a little bit lost on that utility belt. But I do like how it's on the hip. Like I said, it's very playful. Her upper body is also nicely done. The yellow of the bat symbol, and the symbol is hand-painted. Her hair is fantastic. The sculpt is great. That fiery red color with great highlights, shadows, and shading. It looks like it's blowing around. It's a great detail. Finally, the head sculpt is the highlight, I think, of this character. She has a very playful look to her. Her blue eyes, her bright red lipstick. Love the mask, the full cowl. The bat ears are there, but they're not too tall. It's exactly as it should look. I love her profile. And it's Barbara. When you look in the face, it's Babs, and it's very, very well done. Probably the best part of this figure. On to the bad. Some will complain about the pose, and I can see why. It's sort of static, but as I said, I like it. It is kind of playful. Her scale is a bit big. She's a little bit too tall for me. I would have liked her to have been a bit more petite, but that's sort of a minor complaint. The paint is also very sloppy and very heavy in some spots, especially on the gloves. The hands are sculpted, it's just really hard to see because the paint is so thick and so heavy, especially on the one on her hip. It's really bad, it bleeds into the utility belt. And the symbol on her chest, while it is hand-painted, it's very sloppy and uneven, which again is unfortunate. Finally, the costume is good, but is probably the most disappointing thing about this figure for me. I wish that they had put her in any other costume, or at the very least, that they had colored her like she appears on the cover of the magazine instead of the yellow on the underside of her cape. Make it purple, that nice, hot purple, or give her the blue cowl and the blue cape with the yellow on the underside. I am not crazy about this costume. I think it's the absolutely most disappointing thing about her. Finally, the ugly. Really nothing. She's a solid figure. The one thing you might want to watch out for that I've heard about are her eyes. You want to make sure they're nicely painted and not crossed or anything. Otherwise, she's very cool. Overall, I like this figure. I do. I wish that it was a little bit nicer in terms of the paint and in terms of the costume. Just the simple black and yellow is very disappointing. I wish there was just a little bit of purple in there somewhere. The only other disappointing thing for me is I honestly would have preferred getting her, Barbara, as Oracle in the wheelchair. Make her a special edition figure. Give me that figure instead of Jonah Hex, who we just covered not that long ago. I loved that character. I'm so sorry they rebooted her with the new 52 and have made her Batgirl again. I mean, she's great and everything, but I really liked that take on her character. However, for what this figure is, she's good. If you're a Batman fan, you definitely have to pick her up. It's cool having her next to Cassandra. It's great having her with the Birds of Prey, and I always love having another heroine to add to the line. And she's also neat to have with the rest of the Bat family. I love growing that roster, and it still gets a little bigger here, folks. We're not done with them yet. But we are done for now, at least with Batgirl. As I said, I like her. I want to like her more. But if you're a diehard fan, add her to the collection, pick her up. She's very cool, despite the flaws. and I hope you have enjoyed my review of the original Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. I hope you please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next figure in line, going back into the Blackest Night, Brightest Day sub-series collection with another hero, another member of the White Lantern Corps, and a very chaotic type of hero. So I hope you stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I am your host, the Monkey Boy, aka Jay to his friends. Thanks for watching.